Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? We look alive. Am I making noise? Okay, Scott Jernigan, tell me, am I making any noise? Hey everybody, it's Mike Meyers. Send me a message, let me know you guys can hear me. Please. Okay, thank you, Dave Rush. How terribly hard is this? Okay, guys, first of all, hi, my name's Mike Meyers. This is my Monday, Wednesday, and Friday Ask Me Anything. The goal of this live stream is to provide those of us who are isolated because of the coronavirus an opportunity to continue to practice for our upcoming CompTIA certifications. We concentrate primarily on IT fundamentals, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, and we can go past that for those who have questions about that. Now, the first thing you need to remember is that this is an Ask Me Anything. So the goal of this little get-together is for you to ask me questions. So we're always going to be watching in the live chat for questions that are showing up there. But I also want to stress that if you have a bigger question or one that might need a little bit more development, just go ahead and contact me. To do that, all you have to do is contact me. Either one of those email addresses work just fine. Pick one or the other, it works. My Steam account, if you're a gamer, is Senor Pepe. And my office number, which is a little tough to get through right now simply because of the virus. We don't have anybody at the office. We have answers, but they're screening heavily. I'd prefer you just send me an email, and I'll probably just give you my cell phone number. We can talk all you want. And when in doubt, use my nom de plume, Desweds. And Desweds is just about a good way to get a hold of me just about anywhere you need. All right, so we do answer lots of questions, and I get emails. I got one big question that we're going to develop today. We're going to be talking about wireless security in particular, but I really do lean on you guys to ask questions. So these sessions go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we start at 2 o'clock Central, well, currently Central Daylight Time, and we go for either 2 hours or when the questions stop. So I don't have a problem cutting these short if we have a quieter day. Also, today is Friday, so we have giveaways, and we're going to be giving away super bundles, which is going to be a combination of videos, practice questions, and simulations. So we'll be giving away at least 2 of those, if not more, because it's Friday, and Friday is the day that we give stuff away. Also, I need to warn you that Monday is Memorial Day here in the United States, so we're going to be taking the day off. So you're not going to see me again until next Wednesday. Try to hang on as best you can until then, guys. But we will not be doing the AMA on Monday in respect for Memorial Day, and we will see you then the following Wednesday after that. Now, first of all, for those of you who are kind enough just to even show up, we are giving away. We have a 50% discount. I'm going to let Scott Jernigan double check this for me. We have 50% discount on all of our practice questions, and that goes way beyond Security Plus, CYSA, and I'm going momentarily blank. Scott will help with that. And all you have to do is go to our website, totalsem.com, and when you're purchasing, use the code that Scott Jernigan's providing there on the chat, and you can get 50% off, which is a heck of a good deal for already wildly inexpensive. I should charge double for these things. Practice questions. So with that attitude in mind, I'm going to be, because we're giving stuff away, I want to go ahead and dive right into wireless security. We're just going to be talking about it because I've been doing wireless security for so long. I've got it pretty well memorized. And then I want to talk about some of the issues that can come into play. We got a couple routers up, and I want to take a look at some of the types of settings that you might run into on more common SOHO type routers. So with that attitude in mind, let's go way back to like 1997 when they finally invented something called 802.11. You guys got to remember is that wireless networking way predates 802.11. It's just they all stunk. And some of them tried to use things like infrared, and it wasn't good. So 802.11 is famous for being the first radio frequency wireless protocol that actually worked well. And can you believe it came out in 97? It's like, it was like yesterday. I mean, I swear to God it was yesterday. Anyway, when 802.11 first came out, part of the original 802.11 standard included both authentication and authorization. So let's make sure you understand the difference. Authentication means we know who you are, and authorization decides what you can do, right? So the original 802.11 standard had this wired equivalent privacy WEP. And when WEP came out, it consisted of either a 64-bit or a 128-bit code, and that was actually only a 40-bit or can I do this in my head, 104-bit code, and then concatenated onto that with something called an initialization vector. You got to remember, the first generation of 802.11, the encryption used a very popular streaming encryption, still around to this day, called RC4. And RC4 encrypts kind of like a sausage machine, where each bit kind of gets encrypted. You think, well, Mike, how can I encrypt a single bit? Well, if you don't know what that bit's going to be, it's going to be encrypted, right? So in order for RC4 to work, if you're going to encrypt literally every bit of every packet as it goes out, each individual packet is going to need a different kind of key. Because if we keep providing the same key, well, it's pretty easily cracked. So the idea was we would use this initialization vector, this 24-bit initialization vector, which was concatenated onto the end of your either 40-bit or 104-bit key, and then that would be changed every time you sent a packet, so that way the bad guys couldn't see it. That sounds good, but there's a couple of problems. Problem number one, if you got a 24-bit initialization vector, well, that's 2 to the 24th power, or about 16 million different combinations. And in today's world, and even in 20 years ago world, that just wasn't enough. The problem is you can't ever let the initialization vector use the same value, because if it does, the bad guys are going to be able to crack it. And when they initially put this together, they'd think, why would anybody need to send that many packets? Well, the probability is, if you take statistics, all you need is about 5,000 packets when you're using a 64-bit WEP key, and you'll get a collision. You'll have the same one. And put a 0 on the end, and then that's all you need for a 128-bit key. So the bottom line is that WEP, when it initially came out, was pretty much crackable out of the box. And not by password cracking. It was cracked mathematically, which is far more dangerous and not good. On top of that, the authentication that was originally designed for 802.11 required a challenge and response. So basically, you typed in the key into your client, you typed in the key, the WEP key, same key we were using for encryption, into the WAP, and it would be a challenge. The client would encrypt something using the WEP key, send it back to him, then the wireless access point would look at it, compare it, and ta-da, it would get the answer. That also had a lot of problems. You had shared, it was called shared key authentication, or shared, or you could just skip that part altogether and go into what was known as open authentication. It ended up that open authentication was actually more secure, because you weren't passing the WEP key around as much, and the bad guys couldn't get a hold of it. Bottom line is, the original authentication and authorization methodology for the original 802.11 standard stunk. And if this came out in 97, by 2001, 2002, it was already cracked, easily cracked, trivially cracked. And they just got better at it. And so by 2010, it was trivially cracked. You could go get a copy of Kali Linux, run the right software, and boom, you had all the WEP keys. So that wasn't good. And the powers that be, the 802.11 Standards Committee, said, oh, well, you're right, this is a terrible thing, so we're going to come out with this new standard called 802.11i. And 802.11i was going to add all kinds of groovy stuff to make it a lot harder. Like for authentication, you could add what was called a radius server. You could add another box, and all the WAPs would be hooked to this radius server, and it actually stored all the usernames and passwords, and had all super good authentication methodology there. On encryption, they're like, fine, we're going to dump RC4 completely, and instead we're going to use this far superior encryption called AES. And AES is a fantastic encryption. We use it. Most HTTPS websites use AES. To this day, it's wonderful stuff. Except you got to remember, folks, this was way back in the early 2000s. And the problem is that there were no systems that could handle this. Yeah, they could handle setting up the radius, because to set up radius, all you had to do was point to another machine. That was easy. But that AES, to be able to do AES on a packet-by-packet basis on an 802.11 network, well, that just wasn't going to happen. So all the folks who were making wireless access points and wireless cards, they all got together and they said, okay. What part of 802.11i can we do right now? And there was another part of 802.11i where they wanted to just take WEP and fix WEP. And this fixing of WEP was called, well, it had a lot of names, but most of the time you see it called TKIP, Temporal Key Integrity Protocol. Don't hold me to that. But TKIP basically came up with a methodology that allowed you to reset the initialization vector pretty much anytime you wanted. And instead of simply concatenating it onto the key, you stirred it up. And it was a pretty cool feature. The other thing that nobody talks about, and this was an important part about improving WEP, was this thing called Michael. And Michael was a sort of a challenge response methodology that could verify that the WAP was actually in a conversation with a client and vice versa. The client was talking to the WAP. So the people that got together, they go, okay, so what can we do with 802.11i? Fine, we can do this WEP thing and with the TKIP to make WEP better. Still kind of crackable, but a lot harder. And this TKIP and this Michael thing. So that's one thing we can do. We can do the radius server stuff. That's easy enough to plug into our wireless access points, firmware update, so people can have that option. But it's not the 802.11i standard, do you understand? So what happens is that they had to come up with their own name for this, and they came up with Wireless Protected Access, or WPA. WPA is not a standard. WPA is a marketing term used by the folks who make wireless stuff to show how far into the 802.11i standard they could get. Get the idea? So for a while we ran on WPA. So basically, so WPA worked fine. The problem with WPA, it's not that it's that big of a problem, but it couldn't do AES. So before the 802.11i standard was finally ratified, and I think it was 2007, don't hold me to that, they came up with another version of WPA. And this version of WPA, called WPA2, simply added AES. So that doesn't mean it couldn't do TKIP if it needed to, the old style encryption, but it could also do this much more advanced encryption called AES. So when you hear WPA and WPA2, what you're really talking about are marketing terms. 802.11i is well established now. 802.11i adds all kinds of incredible things that we don't talk about for authentication. For example, 802.11i includes all of these authentication standards that are under the umbrella term called 802.1x. And that'll allow you, like you can put a certificate on your clients and a certificate in the WAP. You can do all kinds of cool stuff like that, that not only encrypts the data stream, but can actually even encrypt the authentication process itself, which you don't have by definition with regular 802.11. Doesn't mean you have to do that, and a lot of people don't. You'd have to be in an enterprise environment before you'd start seeing like this 802.1x. They would have names like EAP-TLS or EAP-TTLS to make these authentication standards. But the bottom line is, and what you need to worry about, especially for the CompTIA exams, is understanding what is WEP, what is WPA, and what is WPA2. So the best way to actually go through this process is to take a look at a couple of routers that I've got strung up, and let's see how they handle that type of stuff. But before I do that, I want to take a minute and see if we got any questions directly on wireless at this moment. I see one quick. Hey, Jacob Tabaris, should the 802.11 standards be memorized for the A+? Jacob, if I'm not talking about it, you don't need to memorize it, at least in terms of 802.11. There's a VPN discussion going on. I'm going to skip past that for the moment. Yeah, Jacob, I've actually gained 2 pounds this week. Very frustrating. Guys, I'm just looking for wireless questions before we move on. Okay, so I think we're looking pretty good at this point. I think everybody's happy. So let's continue on. And what I want to do is take a look at 2 different modern routers. These are some of the 802.11ax routers that are 2020 vintage. Now you'd think WEP has been bad for 20 years now, right? So nobody even should have WEP as an option on a router anymore, right? Watch this. Oop, that's me. Don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me. There we go. Okay, so this is the ASUS router. This is the RTAX88U. And I'm going to go over here into wireless. I got to check something real quick here. Does this show up on? Yeah, it does. Great. Okay. Okay, so first of all, you'll see that this is authentication method. Right now, I am configuring, yeah, we're going to make this a little harder. There we go. So I'm going to be configuring the 2.4 gigahertz band first. In fact, that's probably the only one I'm going to do because these are identical. Remember, folks, it doesn't matter whether you're running on a 2.4 or the 5 gigahertz band. It doesn't matter whether you're running 802.11b or 802.11ax. The encryption standards stay the same, or they get better at least, but they stay the same. All right. So the first thing I want to take a look at is here under authentication method. Now by default, this thing says WPA2 personal. Can I get that to come up a little bit? There we go. But if I hit this pull down, you're going to see some options here. Number 1 is open system. Open system means there ain't no encryption. It's all wide open. Anybody can access and talk to the wireless access point. If the wireless access point is passing out DHCP, it can get an IP address. Get the idea? Now, if I can't, I can talk to the wireless access point, but if I don't know like a key or something like that, you'll never get an IP address as long as it doesn't know what the secret is. Do you understand the difference? So open means wide open, you're in, that's it. That's no fun. Okay, so we hit the pull down. The next thing I want to show you is WPA Auto Personal. Now, I want to take a real close look. Remember I told you that the only real difference between WPA and WPA2 is that WPA2 can handle AES, right? Well, watch this router. So if you take a look here, WPA, this is WPA personal shared key, and you can see that it's set to AES. Wait a minute, Mike, I thought you just said that WPA was TKIP and WPA2 was AES. It is. What's happening here is you get these chipsets that they build in these wireless access points that can actually get around that. So when you click on WPA and you say AES, you know what you've really done? You've set it to WPA2. So you got to be a little bit careful here. People unhook the concept of TKIP and AES from WPA or WPA2. Mike Meyers is right. WPA means you're running TKIP, WPA2 means you're running AES. However, I just gave you an example of a router that doesn't do that. So make your life easy. When you run into questions on the CompTIA, if they're looking for the best, AES is always going to be better than TKIP. Got it? That's really all you need to remember. So here's WPA Auto Enterprise. The moment you see Auto Enterprise, that means you're plugging in a Radius server, which means I would have to have configured a Radius server somewhere in my network. Then I would just type in its address and then I would type in some passphrase. This is completely separate from the encryption that's taking place within the wireless access point itself. All that Radius allows me to do is to have a separate database with usernames and passwords, usually just usernames and passwords, that say this person, this entity, this system is allowed to get on the wireless network. And then and only then can the actual encryption take place. So you take a look here, we still have, it's still WPA, it's just going to another place. So the last one's going to be is good old WPA2 personal, which is by far the most common one today. And you'll see there's the encryption as AES. And you'll notice with WPA2, it only chooses AES, because that's how it should be. I'm sorry that some of these chipsets allow you to pick on WPA and choose AES, but this is how it should be. And here's the pre-shared key. If you ever want to come over to my house and get on my wireless network, you know the actual passcode. So I want to talk about passcodes for a minute. The maximum length passcode you can have with WPA or WPA2 is 63 bytes. Now that sounds like a lot, but the reality is it's not very much at all. And what will happen with WP and WPA2 is it will employ a key stretching formula to extend it to 256 bits. Did I say bytes? I meant bits. It's called PBKF2. I can never remember all these different key stretchers. Basically, you give it some ASCII phrase, and it does a bunch of hashes and things and makes it longer. So a 256-bit thing. But the longest you can get is only 63 bits, which is pretty short, right? So you got to think about that. All right. That was so much fun. I want to do it again. I'm going to try get this in a browser. Okay. Wait. I get the bits and bytes wrong. Who's going to scream at me here? Nobody. This is great. Okay, cool. Let's keep going then. All right, here we go. What's fun? Let's do it again. And do you guys know all this stuff? I mean, I'm doing wireless security because I was straight up asked. Okay. All right, so this is the other router. Now, if we take a look on this other router, one of the things that catches me immediately, this is a brand new 2020 router, and it still has a WEP option in there. Isn't that crazy? So if you choose WEP, you can either say open system or you can say shared key. Remember, all that means is that they have to pass the WEP key to be authenticated so that they can then pass the WEP key again just to be able to set up the encryption. I know, it's kind of hilarious. And you'll see it says here, it says 64-bit or 128-bit. Remember, that's really 40 bits, and that's really 104 bits. CompTIA likes to obsess on WEP, even though it's been dead for, well, 17 years. So when you're talking about WEP, make sure you understand what WEP is. Make sure you understand that it's a 64-bit and 128-bit key, but always subtract 24 bits for the initialization vector. Also make sure that you understand that WEP uses RC4. So WPA really still uses RC4, but with TKIP to stir up the initialization vector. Let's take a look at this guy. Okay, so as we take a look in here, you can see we can set it either up as 64-bit or 128-bit, and then I could just type the value in here. I can either type it in as straight ASCII, or I can type it in as hexadecimal. That's just a matter of personal choice. I've discovered that making people type hexadecimal pretty much makes them forget keys. Now, if we come back in here, you can see we've got all the other ones too. It's WPA, WPA2 personal, WPA, WPA2 enterprise. So let's select WPA, WPA2. Scott Jernigan's going, is this the 802.11ax router? Yes, Scott Jernigan, it is. So when we select WPA or WPA2, under encryption, which is a funny word to use, it'll say auto, TKIP, or AES. So you see this on a lot of newer routers, so it'll just say WPA or WPA2. And then you select TKIP or AES. If you select TKIP, you've set that router to WPA. If you select AES, you've set it to WPA2. In these situations, there's almost always going to be an auto setting. Take the auto setting. If you've got some ancient old wireless camera or something like that that's still using WPA, it'll switch and it'll talk to it in WPAEs. It's pretty cool how these routers can handle older equipment. But again, if you really want to say WPA2 is AES, WPA is TKIP. You're going to run into some questions on CompTIA that can make that confusing sometime. Just always go with the best answer is all I can say. Okay, so those are the big differences right here. And that's really all there is to it. Now the other thing, since we're in here, I want to talk about one more thing, and that is, see if I can get the thing to move over there so I can show it to you. There we go. I want to talk about WPS. It's going to make me log in again. Okay, so right now it says the WPS function is not available. Oh, and I know why. Why don't I turn on the radio real quick? There we go. Let me hit save. Back to WPS. Okay. So WPS was invented as a tool a long time ago because you had like a wireless laser printer or a wireless bridge or some kind of device that didn't have an easy screen and a keyboard for you to type in pre-shared keys and stuff like that. So the idea behind WPS is that you would have a 10-digit code, like digits 0 through 9, and these codes would be transferred. They would talk to each other and immediately set up a WPA2 connection. Sounds good, right? Well, the problem with it is that the code is so small that it's fairly easily cracked, and in fact almost trivially cracked. So you can kind of just go through and say, hey, try this code. Okay, no, try that code. You can be a bad guy running a laptop running Kali Linux, and you can just make it keep asking. So to get around that problem with WPS, they set it up so that if you have like a WPS capable router, that router, the first time you asked if you were wrong, it's like, okay, you have to now wait 5 seconds. You ask again, okay, you're wrong, now you gotta wait 10 seconds. Get the idea? And that really helped slow down the amount of cracking that took place with WPS. However, it can still be a bit of an issue, and so it's just something you need to be aware of. For a while there, they almost got rid of WPS. It started to disappear because it was so easily cracked. But by making WPS more robust through a lot of things, the one I described to you is just one of the things they've done, WPS is very much alive and well. These are brand new 2020 routers, and I'm pretty sure the other one, does it have WPS as well? Let me look. Pretty sure it does. Yeah, there it is. Here, let me scroll up so you guys can see that. So it also has WPS. You can actually see the pin code for this guy right here. I'm pretty sure I can change that if I want. Maybe not. CompTIA hates WPS, and for the time period, particularly with the Network Plus, when the last version of Network Plus that came out, it was still pretty much a problem child. I will tell you that WPS is much better than it used to be, much harder to crack, but be aware that for the exams, you want to not be happy with WPS. It's too easily cracked. All right, so there's the answer to questions that were asked me previously on this particular topic. And just seeing who's on here. Amy Blackwell, is WEP lingering because of legacy equipment IT professionals or what? Legacy equipment. I'm not going to name any names, but a certain government body that has 3 letters and carries guns did some testing down here in Houston about 5 years ago, and something like 5% of the industrial wireless networks were still running WEP. Crazy, huh? They're probably upgraded now, but yeah, WEP should be gone now. Also, keep in mind, guys, there's another one. This is not going to be on the exams, but it's interesting, called WPA3. WPA3 is going to get rid of a lot of problems. It's going to increase the encryption. It's going to be an even stronger version of AES, which is good. But then it's going to do something that's kind of cool where you really can't have an open network. And it's security among equals, which is the cornerstone of how a lot of the mesh networks are running today. And basically, you have 2 devices. They want to talk to each other. They talk to each other kind of encrypted from the beginning. How's that for crazy? So if you try to connect to an open network someplace, like at your coffee shop, theoretically with WPA3, it may be open, but there'll still be an encryption between you and the wireless access point, which would prevent bad guys from doing naughty, naughty things. The problem with WPA3, and this problem with any wireless, is that it's so easy to impersonate another person. If I can grab your MAC address and or better yet, if I could grab the MAC address of a WAP and I could broadcast my own SSID, the same SSID, right? Get a jammer so that wireless access point is on the 2.4 and it's on channel 6. Get a big wireless jammer. It looks like a walkie-talkie. They're illegal. Get the jammer, have it jam out 6, and then you go 11 and go, hey, I'm the same guy. Get the idea? And then all of a sudden everybody connects to you. Oh, please re-enter your credit card or whatever it might be. That's an evil twin attack, and WPA3 is not going to get rid of that. Nothing can. There's nothing about wireless that a WAP can look at you and go, is that really Mike Meyers? So, always going to be a bit of a challenge. Yes, I've heard that configuring APs is a good thing to be able to do for the exams. Now, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go into more detail than that. Pretty straightforward. Giles Sosa, WPA3 has been hacked, right? There's some question marks. I think it's called the Dragon Blood attack or something like that, showing some weaknesses, but odds are good this early on. They'll get it fixed. I have not yet held a piece of WPA3 equipment, which speaks volumes for me. I mean, early on in most standards, they find little problems. I think well, I'll tell you the one thing, WPA3, I'm going to end up throwing away all of my hacking tools because they're not going to work anymore. They're just all junk. So I'm comfortable that WPA3 will be fine by the time we start to really see it out there. And again, guys, WPA3 is not on any CompTIA exams that I know of, but I just thought I'd make a quick mention of it. Okay, so let's have a competition. You guys ready? You guys ready to compete? You want to have some fun? You ready? Okay, here's how this is going to work. So what we're going to do here is, oh, by the way, we're giving away super bundles today. I'm going to give away 2 super bundles, which is going to be videos, practice questions, and simulations. And so all you have to do is answer this. But we're going to do a little bit differently today. What I need you to do is I need you to send an email to Scott Jernigan. So Scott's going to put his email up there. And as soon as I see it, it's going to take him a minute because we've got a 10-second delay here. The first person who sends Scott Jernigan the right answer in an email wins. All right? So there you go, folks. There's Scott Jernigan's email address. Are you guys ready? Fingers on the keyboard. Got a window open to your email client? Typing in Scott Jernigan's name ahead of time. Okay. Subject matter. Don't care. Put some subject in there. And here it comes. Scott, we don't have that big of a crowd today, brother. We're not going to murder you. You ready? What was the original 802.11 standard upgrade which defined things like TKIP and AES and radius servers? It was 802.11. There's another letter of the alphabet on the end. So don't write it on the live chat, folks. Start sending emails to Scott Jernigan. I'll give you a clue. It's called 80211 something. All right? So send them in. Go, 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 go. You should be typing me. You should not be listening to me. You should be typing in. All right. That was fun. Let's do it again. Okay, you guys ready? Are we all ready? This is the second one. This is the second one, second bundle. And by the way, if you're declared the winner, Scott will send you an email. And all you have to do, when Scott sends you an email, tell him what do you want. Maybe you want A+, maybe you want Net+, Security+. You tell us. IT Fundamentals, whatever you want. We'll send it, we'll hook you up. Second one, here we go. Is everybody ready for another big giveaway of another super bundle for all you guys? Man, small crowd today. We had so many people yesterday, and now it's such a small crowd on a Friday. Friday's the day we give away stuff, and I don't know. Lucky you guys. Oh, for the record, the winner is Philippe Carmona. Philippe Carmona, congratulations. Philippe, Scott Jernigan's going to send you an email, and he's going to ask you what super bundle you want. And so, Philippe, I don't know if you're using that name on the live chat, and if you don't want to, we're not going to say what your name is. So, anyway, congratulations to Philippe. Let's do it again. You guys ready? Here we go. Oh, the right answer is, Jacob, 80211I. 80211I. All right, so here we go. Let's do it again. I want to give more stuff away. You guys ready? Okay. In WPA2, what form of encryption do we use? For WPA2, what form of encryption do we use? I'll give you a clue. It's 3 letters. So that's the next one. You guys ready? So you should be in your emails right now, sending scottj@totalsem.com an email. And you should be typing in there what you think the answer is. I don't even care what the subject is, but you should be typing like madmen, not even paying attention to me right now. Because the first person to get Scott Jernigan an email will be a winner of the second super bundle that's coming in. Are we all typing away? I'm going to give you guys a couple more seconds because I know you're kind of shifting from listening to me to working on your emails to send Scott Jernigan the email that you're asking for the big answer. Oh, no, we're going to have to redo it. I'm sorry, folks. We have an invalid winner. Oh, no, it's my favorite guy from the Netherlands, Andre de Gooyert. I'm kidding, Andre. Congratulations. You're the winner of the Super Bundle. Well done, Andre. Tolowit, is Scott Jernigan easily bribed? Yes, he is. He's easily bribed, but it costs a lot of money. He's easily bribed with large bills. He's very difficultly bribed with small bills. So, Andre, man, congratulations, brother. All right. Okay, so folks, here we go. So we're only 40 minutes through the first hour. The answer is AES. The right answer is, here, let me write it in. Don't worry, guys. We're always going to have, we give away stuff all the time here. Choco Taco. There's a name. Tolowit Bourbon. Scott Jernigan is not easily bribed with hard liquor. I would strongly recommend bad red wine, or as Scott likes to call it, swill. Something in a screw top, please. I've got some Scott Jernigan in I drink good wine. I'm sorry. You know, life's too short, blah, blah, blah. And Scott enjoys a better glass of wine, but when it's his wallet, it's swill. Okay, swill for the win. Absolutely. Don't worry about it, Duggan. We do this all the time, man. This is what Fridays are for. All right, so guys, now remember that was the only real big question I had for the day. So we are fairly wide open other than that. I'm just checking to see if I have any incoming questions coming in. Yeah, Amy Blackwell, swill time is rapidly approaching. Here's looking at you, kid. So for the record, Scott Jernigan is telling me on the side that the answers came in like, so it was just luck of the draw, which is the whole goal behind these types of things. All right. So I'm scrolling up looking for questions. Glenn Ruther, I'd like to ask about MAP 4 and MAPS. Can you go into that? Glenn, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not familiar. Do you mean IMAP 4? Is that what you're talking about? You're going to have to give me more information. I'm just scrolling through looking for questions. So here's Eric Rotondaro. For the A+, what do you need to get a passing score? Is it 85% or 70%? The answer is we don't officially know because they use it as a pass of, it's a, gosh, I forget for A+. I'm going to lie and say it's like you have to have a 640 out of 900. So you divide 640 by 900 and multiply by 100%, you get a percentage, right? Well, it doesn't work that way. I've taken CompTIA exams and intentionally got every single question wrong. I mean, every question wrong. I got every question wrong, okay? And I still got like a 100 out of 900, okay? And then I've also taken CompTIA exams, not to be boastful, but I'm pretty comfortable with a lot of these topics, where I really worked hard to make sure I got every question right, and then I'd get like an 860 out of 900. So we wonder if there's like some kind of baseline thing in there. The bottom line is that you don't really panic about what your score is on a CompTIA exam. The big word is D for diploma. No one cares what your score is. So in that aspect, we don't worry about it. Now, in terms of your practicing, and you want to have a percentage that you're comfortable with that makes you go, okay, I'm passing enough that when I get to the real exam, I'll pass. I like 80, 85% on my practice exams. We actually artificially turn the pass rate up kind of silly high like that, mainly to make you guys drill harder. The answer is nobody knows, nor does CompTIA advertise a raw percentage what the passing score is. So, Eric, we don't. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. All right, just scrolling on. Okay, so it doesn't look, are we actually out of questions? Well, I'm going to go for an hour, whether we whether you guys give me questions or not. So I do have a couple of more interesting questions. Bear with me. I'm going to pull these up. One thing of note that came up, Technician G Designer. I bought your Net Plus on Udemy. It's really interesting. Thank you. Do you offer any practice labs? Why, yes, I do. I have lots of practice labs. Just go to www.totalsim.com, and if you use our discount code, Technician G Designer, you get them 50% off just because you're nice enough to show up here today. The best practice questions for any CompTIA exam that are out there. So all you have to do is go to www.totalsim.com, use the code that's being typed into the chat even as we speak, and we will be able to get that for you. Okay. 50% off best practice questions that are out there. Okay, so Jesse C., can I use blank pieces of paper to put down notes for Security Plus? That brings up an interesting point, because one of the things that we've been asking everybody out there is, like, if you're going to do the online testing where you can test at home, we want to hear about how you're doing. And we've been having some really, really good results. People have been real pleased. However, just starting yesterday, we got 2 phone calls in from people. Now, keep in mind, I don't have any details here, okay? I'm just telling you what we have had for incoming information. 2 people today who tried to use the OnView system, and the proctor didn't show up, just straight up didn't show up, and the test doesn't start. And I don't know how long they waited. I don't have any other details other than this. If you were the people who this happened to, we'd like to get more information from you, please. Did you only wait 5 minutes for a proctor? What does the rule set say? We've never heard about this where proctors weren't showing up for online testing from the OnView system, so please give us more information. Did you get robbed? Did they take all your money and not let you take the exam? Did you get to take it the next day? We need more information, please, because it's important. So can you use blank sheets of paper? So even that, Jesse, we're getting kind of mixed information. On the traditional exams, you should be provided with either where you sit down at a testing center. I would bring up some paper along and a pen or a pencil, but a lot of them will provide you either paper or a whiteboard for you to write on. And you just go with that. In terms of the OnView, we're still getting mixed information. It's a little bit frustrating. It's our understanding that you are not to bring any form of paper at all, and that there is a online whiteboard where you can, type on and do stuff like that. But we don't have. We had heard from another source, a very wonderful young man I just discovered a couple of days ago, Jason Dion, good guy. I finally got to watch some of his stuff, very good. And I had heard through one of his AMAs that someone said you could, but none of that's been verified. So the right answer is we're not 100% sure. Gino, don't get me started on the on-screen whiteboards. Sorry, man. Hey, Gino, were you the person who sent me this wonderful video? Where did it go? It did come from you. Hey, Gino, thank you very much. Gino sent me a great article from The Verge that talks about how people are starting to freak out about online testing. So I'm going to type in the name of the article so you can look it up. I'm just typing. So if you get a chance, check that out. It's called Exam Anxiety, How Remote Test Proctoring is Creeping Students Out. It's a fascinating little article, and it's on The Verge, which is a good site. I like to watch some of their stuff. And this is more not certification testing. It's more like academic stuff. So, interesting. Thank you very much for that article, Gino. I enjoy that stuff. Roberto Hernandez, if one AP dual band supports 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, is it okay to add SSI for both frequencies? Sure. It's usually not that pretty, though. You know what? Let's try to do that on one of these. This could end up being a big mess, but let's see what happens. All right, so on this guy, we go to wireless settings. So it's probably logged me out. Yeah, great. Let me log back in real quick. Okay, so on this guy, so right now I'm on the 5 gigahertz band. So if you take a look here, can I move that up a little bit so you guys can see that better? Hang on. So if you see on the 5 gigahertz, am I on 5 gigahertz? Hold on. Okay, I'm definitely on the 5 gigahertz band. So you'll see on this one it'll say AX only, AC only, ANACAX. So if you're comfortable with your bands, AX is a 5 gigahertz band, 802.11a is a 5 gigahertz band, 802.11ac is a 5 gigahertz band. N can actually jump into the 2.4, but it's primarily a 5 gigahertz band. So if you take a look, you can most certainly put one on there, and I can even do stuff like this. So watch what I name this SSID. So I'm going to call this one Mike's, how about something funnier? NSA van, and because this is the 5 gigahertz, I'll do something like this, 5. You see that? So not only can I make SSIDs for the 5 gigahertz and the 2 gigahertz band, 2.4 gigahertz band, but I'll actually name them something. You know, I think my SSID here at home is Robot Overlords. So I have Robot Overlords 5_O and Robot Overlords 2_4. So that way I can see them. You'd be amazed how handy that is. So many times you'll get some device and you'll be like, does this thing do 802.11ac? And you fire up the device, and if it only can see Robot Overlords 2-4, it almost certainly is not an AC device, because AC needs a 5 gigahertz band. Get the idea? It can be very, very convenient that way. Somebody asked me, is this the Galaxy Fold? Why, sure is, buddy. Galaxy Fold. I love the smell of new computers in the morning. Smells like victory. Good question. What else we got? Tom Jeffrey, I'm doing your A+. Is the test same here as in the UK? Okay. Yes is the easy answer. We know they all pull from the same test bank, but there does seem to be some geographical ways that they pull questions. But if you're using my training materials, you would see very few surprises, is all I can say about that. Mike, how do I know if someone is outside trying to hack into my network? Woo, Thomas, that's a big question. Because your computer is in a smoking heap in the corner? First of all, the chance of anybody trying to actually hack into an individual's system is pretty small. You're just not interesting enough. What they're probably, if somebody wanted to get a hold of your system, you know, they're probably want to turn you into a zombie so that you can be part of a denial of service attack or something like that. And they work very hard for you not to be able to see that. You can use, there's a lot of different types of logging tools that you can put even in home routers. I'm going to see if these routers have any interesting logging features. Bear with me. Ooh, boy, oh boy. Yeah, let's take a look at this. All right, so on this particular guy, I just clicked on this option down here where it said system log. See that? And this one's pretty intense in terms of information it gives me. So this is like everything. This is a wireless log. I can see who's been logging in, what my current connections are, you know, what's open. I can see DHCP leases that are coming in and out. Keep in mind that this router, I've just plugged it in for this demo, so there's very little going on. Is that the route? Oh, that's just the legit routing table. These really aren't logs per se, as just letting me know what's happening. who's actually connected to the system. So, I mean, one great way to tell if somebody's been in your system is, did they grab a DHCP lease? That's a real common one, and that what people don't look for. Hey, you know, some system called Bob's System, you know, suddenly had a DHCP lease. That wouldn't be good. If it's an active attack, you can see what active leases are going on. This particular router seems to log both active and inactive leases. It's a pretty cool tool for a sub $300 802.11ax router, not too shabby. That would probably be the place I'd ask you to start looking. And a great way to do that is have friends come into your network, and where you can actually look at your log files in real time and see what's happening. You can knock them off too. It's great fun for all. But that would be one place I'd tell you to start. Okay, here comes another question from Terrence Tech. What's the difference between a stateful and a stateless firewall, and can you give examples? Sure. Okay. The stateful firewall is probably the firewall that we all think about and know and love. You know, that is, it doesn't care what else is happening. I am always going to block port 8081, okay? Or I don't care what's happening, I'm going to deny access to MAC address, whatever, from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. You get the idea? And what we're talking about there are what we call access control lists, or ACLs. Let's see if we can take a look at one of these routers, see if they got anything interesting on them like that. One moment, please. Trying to find one real quick. Okay, here, I found one. Okay, so I'm on the other router, the one I've not looking at as much, and I looked here under security, under firewall, and you'll see it says enable SPI firewall. So stateful, I forget what SPI stands for. Stateful packet inspection. Okay, so a stateful firewall is going to be more interested in what's going on right now. For example, a lot of routers can be pinged, and that's okay. And on the WAN side, ping a router, no big deal. But what if you get a whole bunch of pings, like within 1 minute? Then all of a sudden, he may stop. That might be a problem. You get the idea? And he won't respond. So a firewall that's stateful worries about the state of what's going on at any given moment to determine what it's going to do. A stateless firewall simply looks at an access control list and blocks a port number, blocks an IP address, blocks a MAC address, blocks a time of day, blocks a URL. Doesn't matter about the state of the system. How's that for an answer? Amy Blackwell, does Cisco still have more bugs than a Louisiana picnic? Wow, Amy, you Southern girl? That is slicker than frog's hair. Does Cisco still have bugs? I don't know. I don't know if Cisco has bugs, or I call them feature sets. Axe, have you ever flashed a Cisco router? Well, that's a personal question. No, I'm kidding. Yes, I have flashed many a Cisco router. Mainly going a few years back, it was, we had a bunch of older 3600 series routers, I think they were. We were trying to flash them up to support IPv6. It was also expensive. Marnie, there you are. Good evening. Good to see you, brother. Janet Hill, thanks for all the info regarding taking online tests. Several were going to test center, now going online. They're stressful over the pre-stuff. I promised them I'd ask here. Okay, well, Jeanette, the one thing I will tell you is that we've had a lot of people we've had a lot of people take the online test, and pretty overwhelmingly, everybody's had really good results. It's really important to go through the pre-stuff, and don't give them excuses to have trouble. Don't leave posters on the wall. Don't be in a messy desk. You know, don't have cats jumping up and around your desk. You know, simplify the surroundings as much as possible so that the poor proctor can at least be able to ascertain ahead of time that you're in good shape. And then when you start the test and they have you move the camera around, just be cool and don't surprise them. Proctors hate surprises. Also, keep in mind with online, don't even think about plugging anything into or out of a USB or HDMI port. It is my understanding that any attempt to do that will cause an instantaneous lockup and you lose all your money. So don't jack with your system once you've got it plugged in. If you're going to do this on a laptop and you want an external mouse, fine, plug it in ahead of time. You can't use extra monitors, is my understanding. You only has to have a one monitor system. So don't, if you have extra monitors, if you got a dual monitor system, it's a desktop, unplug one and make sure you only have a single monitor. But it should be pretty good. We did hear a couple of days ago about a couple of folks where the proctor didn't show up, and we're still waiting for more information on that. It's the next day and they're still fighting Pearson VUE. One guy called and he said Pearson VUE hung up on him. So again, I don't have any details here. I'm hoping there's more to it than that. It's a new product. I'll tell you though, the opportunity to be able to take a test in your pajamas at your house just sounds pretty convenient. And one thing I will say to CompTIA and Pearson VUE is that they work really, really hard to get something right before they put it out. So I will give them that. Yeah, there might be a typo in a test or something, but those guys working together, the robustness of the product gives me confidence. So it was my understanding that the online test is the same thing as the testing center test, same test, just a different place. Do you know of an option to get an ISO of Windows Server for learning purposes put in VM? Sure. Geez, Marnie, just do a Google search for Windows Server ISO. And Microsoft has like 90-day deals. Sorry, just checking notes. Microsoft has 90-day deals for Server 2016 for sure. And you just have to set up a Microsoft account, give them use email, your name address, email address. I would think if you're a tech, you should have a Microsoft account anyway, but the answer is they are very easy to get and work great in a VM, and if you want to play with Active Directory and stuff like that, there is no reason to pay for it. In fact, that's why Microsoft gives these things away for 90 days. They want you to play with it. Because if you play with it, then you get into Active Directory, then you go get a job. Next thing you know, you're going to go, we need Active Directory. Microsoft is a very, very smart company. They want you to play with their products. And it's all completely free. Free thinking mind. Can we talk about VPNs? Sure. Okay. What do you want to talk about VPNs? VPNs are nice things. VPNs means to use a public network like the internet as a private network. That's the whole goal behind it. So with a VPN, let's say on this side, I've got a network back at the office, right? And this office has printers in it and stuff like that, and shared folders and file servers. And I'm over here in Denver, Colorado, and I want to get into that network. Now, in order to be in that network, what I have to do is I have to have a local IP address. The same that's in that network has to be on my system. Do you understand? And I want it to, so I fire up my network and I can see all the shared printers and shared systems. You get the idea? But I'm in Denver. So I'm not, I want to imagine taking a chunk of RJ45 and running it across the country and plugging it in to that network. And that's what a VPN is. If you're plugged into a VPN, you have an internal IP address of your faraway network. Now, you'd say, well, wait a minute, Mike, if I'm in Denver, The IP address I'm going to be getting is from whatever wireless access point I'm connecting to. It's going to hand me a DHCP address, right? Well, right, that's exactly right. So what you can do is that if you're on the internet, and if you know the IP address of the WAN side of your router, or if the WAN side of your router has a DNS name for it, okay, you can connect and create what they call a tunnel. And I hate the word tunnel when we say VPN, because what we have is you've got a IP packet with an internal IP address to and an internal IP address from, which is inside a packet that's going to get it from your laptop in Denver all the way to usually a router. And so you have to have what are called endpoints. There has to be something that takes all this data and shoves it into a tunnel. The tunnel runs it out to your router at the far end network, and then the router itself unhooks it and lets that packet out in the LAN. You get the idea? So that's what we call a forward proxy. So a forward, I'm sorry, started to lie to you. That is not a true statement. I was confusing VPN and proxy servers. That's what we call a VPN, virtual private network. So the secret to a VPN is you have to have endpoints. The most traditional endpoint is some laptop or something in an airport or in a sales meeting or something like that. And then the other endpoint is invariably a VPN-capable router. Let's see if these routers are VPN-capable. I can hear Scott Jernigan going, Mike is going in cold. I'm going in cold. Hey, we're going live, people. Let me make sure that this thing, let me just take a little peek real quick. Okay, one of these is. Okay, so if you look over here on this router, it's got a VPN option. And, okay. So it has three kinds of VPNs. Point-to-point tunneling protocol, or PPTP, open VPN. Sorry, need water. Open VPN, which is a very popular and very powerful VPN, and then an IPsec VPN. So these are three different technologies that work three different ways. Let's do PPTP because it's the easiest one. So if I enable this PPTP, the VPN details, let me go to advanced settings, that's interesting. So these types of settings are different for each type of VPN. So the big one here is the client addresses. So PPTP is going to, these are the addresses it's going to pass out. And the downside to PPTP, what's VPN client? This ought to be interesting. Oh, this allows me to connect to another one. So that's kind of interesting. What you're seeing there is that I've seen VPN setups where you have two routers. And you set up one router as the VPN server, and the other one is the VPN client, and you can end up hooking up, like Dallas and Houston can be hooked together. So PPTP, probably a little bit better would be something like OpenVPN. Let me turn that on. So here with OpenVPN, we can set up usernames and passwords. So if I want, here, I'm going to set it up so a guy, Mike, and password total, I'm going to add that. And now Mike can dial in. So, but I need you to look right here. So that allows me to set up OpenVPN on the router side, but you need a client. Microsoft Windows comes with a pretty good VPN client built into it. And you just create a new network connection, and one of those connections is called a VPN, and it'll support names like L2TP, PPTP, there's a few others that Microsoft supports out of the box. However, for a lot of VPN solutions, you have to get a client. So this router here supports a very popular free VPN called OpenVPN, but the Windows client doesn't support it. So you have to download a client. And that's what this option is here for, I'm pretty sure. Oh, it just goes to a help page from ACES. Da, 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 da. There we go. So you have to install OpenVPN software. That gets installed on this system, and then you can set up your router, and you're off and running. The last one I'd ever recommend for anybody is an IPsec. This is terrifying. Oh, VPN, come on, that's no fun. So IPsec VPNs, this is still pretty simplistic. They have made this one pretty easy to set up. This is really just DHCP information for clients. Once they connect, what kind of information you want to give them? And everything else, wow. I've never looked at this one. This is surprisingly easy. And here's little ACES gives us another link. I wonder if they give us a client on this one too. Bear with me, guys. I'm just reading through here real quick. Oh yeah, so you have to, you got to download a tool here too. All right, that makes more sense. So that's the main reason we're going to use VPNs, is you want somebody who's on the road or far away connecting in. We have VPNs here. In fact, we use OpenVPN at Total Seminars. It's a great tool, and it's free, relatively easy to configure. And I'd show it to you, but it gives me all the internal information that naughty people could use against me, so I'm not going to do that. But the bottom line is that it's a fairly easy tool to use, supports certificates, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, Glenn, I'm not a fan. I don't like IPsec. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that my experience configuring VPN for IPsec has been hard, whereas tools like OpenVPN are easy. I don't have any problems with the protocol itself per se. Furquan, how do you set up VPNs on virtual machines? I don't think it would make any difference. I mean, you know, as long as the big thing on your virtual box is make sure you're using bridged networking, so that way your virtual machine will get a legitimate IP that's the same as your physical machine's on. So like if the machine you're putting it on is a 192.168.55, you want your VM to also have a 192.168.55. You would have to have a remote way to connect. This is why it's always good to have a buddy who's, you know, you can set up his as a VPN and then put some, you know, cameras or something on the other side, or a printer, you know, and then that way you can connect to it. But I don't think it would make any difference. You would you'd use a VPN client that would work with whatever VPN tool you're using and set it up and go. If you've never done a VPN, you should do a PPTP VPN first. They're not real secure, but they are super easy to set up. And just remember, you have to create usernames and passwords for those. And also keep in mind that PPTP by default will not provide an IP address that is part of your local area network. That's a security thing, but all you'd have to do is set it up to pass out IP addresses that are part of your network, and you could get to it. Pretty straightforward. Terrence Tech, Mike, is it better to set up your own VPN through your own router than to pay for the service like NordVPN? Yes, generally yes. Yes. VPNs by default are slow as it is, so bringing in a third party is always a problem. And you also have to be careful. So NordVPN is a weird animal. It's really more like a proxy server that's designed to hide stuff. And so it's kind of a different animal altogether. I don't know if I'd want to do a full-blown proxy server thing today, but I'll tell you what, let me write down some notes. So either Wednesday or Friday of next week, I think we should do a more exhaustive VPN versus proxy server. Because things like NordVPN are really kind of a different animal. So is it okay if we save that particular question? Because I want to get some props up here so we can actually play with it. As a matter of fact, here, Scott Jernigan, hold me to it. Next Wednesday. Remember, we're not going to be on Monday, okay? Monday is Memorial Day here in the States, so salute the troops. So we're not going to be on. But next Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday, we will do a VPN versus proxy server. So we'll get a little more detail. So oh, he knows. Hold on. Guys, just going through the questions real quick, guys. Let me just dive in here. Okay. Marnie Lorenz, if you set up ADDS in Windows Server, can you then use another VM to add to the domain to play around with it? ADDS, Active Directory Services in a Windows Server? Can you use another VM to add to the... No, absolutely you can. In fact, that's one of the best reasons for virtual machines, Marnie, is like you just want to play with Active Directory and you want to have 4 or 5 virtual machines that act as just clients to see how they get logged in without freaking out the rest of your real network. Absolutely, you can do that, and I recommend that highly. Again, keep in mind that when you're configuring your hypervisor, in that case, you would not want to use bridge networking. You would want to use, they have different terms depending on the brand, what is it called? It's an isolated network. It's just that all the VPNs are members of the same virtual network. So they have like a virtual switch. They are in no way connected to the outside world. They are in no way connected to the hypervisor. And you can actually have 4 or 5 windows open, one of them being your Active Directory server, and 3 or 4 of them being clients. And you can practice logging in and looking at Active Directory users and computers, looking at DHCP, looking at your DNS, looking at your DNS, DHCP, all those settings that you can do through Active Directory, and watch all that configure. Creating domain users and groups, and yeah, it's a very good idea. We actually tried doing that at Total Seminars years ago as a training tool, and these people had never really seen much of computers, so it was a little hard. But if you're comfortable with the idea of VMs, that's a great way to do it. Absolutely a great way to do it. Mito Ghanem, thanks Mike, awesome courses, amazing teacher, you're very welcome. Free Thinking Mind, I know what a VPN is. Okay, I was thinking about the security and your opinion on it. Yeah, I forgot the original question, sorry. This is what gets me in trouble. I'll find you. Are VPNs really as secure as they made out to be? Secure VPNs are secure, sure. PPTP, L2TP based ones, first generation stuff, are not secure. Well-configured IPsec, OpenVPN is, in my opinion, quite secure. I find them very trustworthy. Terrence Tech wants to do a VPN versus proxy, or how little the difference actually is. Thomas Robinson, Mike, will VPN help me bypass country MEC restrictions? No, but a proxy server will, and come back next Wednesday, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Bradley Peterson, how are you doing Linux versus Windows as your main OS? I'm doing Windows as my main operating system. I'm a Windows guy. I like Linux quite a bit. I use Linux on specialized machines all the time. But for regular desktop use, for single sign-on, features like that, I'm still a Windows guy. Kim.net. Boy, that name sounds familiar. If you're trying to stay under your ISP's watch, you should, of course, want to pay for a Oh, okay, then, yeah. Gen Rother, my earlier question about LLMNR and MDNS security. Oh, hang on a minute. God, Glenn, I got to tell you, that's not really a CompTIA question, and I mean, I could say a few words on it, but I got to be honest with you, I don't know enough of it off the top of my head to be able to answer that, so I'm going to have to apologize. Come back on Wednesday and yell at me again, and then probably Friday I'll put an answer together for you, but given that it's actually kind of outside of the CompTIA exams, I'm going to have to kind of do a sidestep on that one. Sorry, man. I like answering questions, but I'm not going to lie if I don't know the answers off the top of my head. Why can't we use our technician GES designer? Why can't we use our own gateway when using static IP? We have to use ISP gateway? You have to use the WAN side of your router, okay? And if you've actually got a static IP on the WAN side of your router, so you got to be careful saying gateway, because you're saying gateway, you're talking about a gateway router. That gateway router is going to have two connections. It's going to have one connection, the LAN connection, which is the internal connection for your internal network, right? And then it's going to have a WAN connection, which is your upstream connection to your ISP. If you have a static IP address, you most certainly can use a VPN. And even if your router has VPN capabilities, that's even better, because then you don't have to have another piece of equipment. You can install programs like OpenVPN on a computer inside your network, and then you go to your router and you do what's known as a VPN pass-through. But it's, to me these days, if you're just looking to work, easy way to do it, just get a VPN capable router, because most of them are. Even if the WAN side of your router is not static IP, it's probably DHCP. This is where we use tools like dynamic DNS. Dynamic DNS are services that are out there. Let's see if we've got a dynamic DNS on one of these routers. Just looking real quick. Okay, I found one. So I was looking on this router and I went down to, for some reason it's WAN on this one. And there was a bunch of tabs across the top. And one of them says DDNS, and that's dynamic DNS. The whole idea of dynamic DNS is that you set up basically a DNS name for the WAN side of your router. And if it changes, the DNS server supports that. So there are lots of oh, it's not showing up. Hang on. So there are lots of companies that provide this service. ASUS here has one built in, but there's all these other companies. Some of them are pay, some of them are free, and then you just type in some name, okay? And then you can even do a SSL certificate if you want to actually even go so far as to encrypt it. Personally, I don't think that's really that critical, but you can if you want to. The goal of dynamic DNS simply says, look, we know that the WAN side of your IP address may change from time to time, so just go ahead and let some service handle it. If the IP address ever changes, your router will phone home to that dynamic DNS server and say, yeah, I knew my address used to be 14.15.16.17, but now it's 14.15.16.19. And it'll automatically update it. So if you want to access that device, either through connected through a VPN client, or even just you want to do a port forward, you just type in, because you're using a web browser, type in whatever your dynamic DNS name is. Mike's Network at asyscom.com or something like that. That's what dynamic DNS is all about. Something that will remember what the IP address is for your router, even if it ain't static. Oops. Bradley Peterson, does CompTIA exam still hold weight in the industry? Yes. Terrence Tech, it's been kind of confusing to understand the difference between the two. I'm assuming you mean VPN and proxy servers. It is confusing because a lot of times VPNs have proxy server functions. A lot of times proxy servers have VPN functions. Marmy Limo, Active Directory domain server. Yeah, you can absolutely do it. What I was saying, you absolutely can do it. And Marnie, it's a great way to do it. Set up VirtualBox, which is a free virtual machine. Go on Microsoft, get an ISO, download a free 90-day evaluation version of an ISO of Windows Server 2016. I know they have 2016. They got to have more than that. Go ahead and install it in a VM, and then make regular Windows clients. Make Linux clients. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. And have them all just connect to them. Yeah, Glenn, I try to do that, and Scott Jernigan does the best that he can, and he does a great job. But the big challenge we have is we actually tried doing it voice, but also what's happened, I was pontificating, and poor Scott was just distracting me. So we tried it, and it didn't work well. So, but it's a good point, Glenn. I appreciate that. Furquan S. Hey, Mike, I'm completely new to all this. I started studying 2 weeks ago. Welcome. I'm building a virtualization system. Should I install a Type 1 hypervisor, or is Type 2 okay for my level? Type 2 is okay for your level. Don't install a Type 1. You're not there yet, man. Where would you get? Well, yeah. Hyper-V, I guess, would be about the only Type 1 hypervisor that I would know that's easily accessible. VMware, no, don't do that. Trying to install ESX on bare metal is not a good idea. No, just get VirtualBox, Oracle's VirtualBox. It's free. It has all the features that you will need, certainly all the features that you need to understand virtualization, and all the features that you need to pass CompTIA exams. So stick with your Type 2 hypervisors as you're learning. And it's all free. Free! Oh, did the cat show up again? I didn't even notice. Yeah, free thinking mind. The nice thing about OpenVPN more than anything else is that the only real trick to OpenVPN is setting up your initial client configuration file. And they not only have pre-built ones where you just type in stuff like, your static IP address or a few things like that, but they have a template that will actually make it for you. It's very convenient. OpenVPN is a great way to go. And especially if you got a router like mine that takes care of that endpoint of it. It's wonderful stuff. Amy doesn't understand what Spewy the cat means, Scott. It's Spewy. I can't. Yeah, Glenn. I apologize that I don't have. Man, you guys are asking good questions. I'm going to have to say, Glenn, I apologize. These are good questions, Glenn. I'm not in that Security Plus mindset right now, and I apologize. I do not have the answer for you, but I will get it. IMAP 4 and MAPS. I'm not quite sure. Okay. Sam I Am is asking me a question. Oh, goodness. I wish they had some wonderful way to filter just Sam I Am questions, because sometimes I miss the beginning. Okay, let me take a look. Soft Ether. Soft Ether VPN. God, there's so many VPNs out there these days. Never really played with Soft Ether VPN, so I'm going to have to beg ignorance on that particular one. Sorry, man. So, Sam, I can't quite find the beginning of your question, but I think what you're asking is something like service versus doing your own. Again, I'm worried you guys are confusing the concept of proxy server and VPNing. So to me, if you want to connect to a network, like you're a part of that network, then a VPN is the way to go. And in that case, you're going to have, I would just set it up myself. So you're saying install a custom framework Tomato. Man, Sam, if I was here in the States, I'd say just go buy a router that you know has the VPN capabilities for it, as opposed to using a tool like Tomato, which would put VPN in there. No, I would still go, even if you had a router that was not VPN capable, I guarantee you it has VPN pass-through in it. You could turn that on and just install something like OpenVPN on a system inside your network. Remember, it doesn't have to be on the router. So it's Marnix. I was trying to do Marnie. Sorry, Marnix. I'm going to nix that. I got it, man. I will never forget that. Marnix. Gino, what's the difference between a CompTIA certificate and a CE certificate? Gino, I'd love to see a picture of this. I'd be curious what you're talking about there, man. There's continuing education certificates. I've never actually seen one listed as that. I took my Net Plus on Wednesday and it's listed as a Network Plus CE. Did you take Network Plus before? I don't know, just guessing. Glenn's got me all interested now in maps, because I'm not sure what maps is exactly. LBOE, hi Mike, how goes it? It goes well, good questions today. Small crowd, but good questions. All right, Glenn, sorry I couldn't help you with that one. I'm gonna look it up. Rucha Sharma. Last month I cleared the Security Plus exam. I want to thank you for Australia. You're very welcome, Rucha. Marnix. Now you're going for PenTest Plus. Michael Solomon is a great instructor. He is so much fun. CE Council, would that be part of CompTIA? Gino, just send me a picture. I'd like to see it. Andre, what do I need for a VM using Oracle VirtualBox? It's quite a list on the website. Is it? Let's go look together. Okay. Nothing fits. All right, so here I am at the download page for VirtualBox. So here I am, www.virtualbox.org. All right, so assuming that you're going to be running Windows, assuming that you have a CPU that supports virtualization, and you almost certainly do, just download the 6.1. All right, there's a 6.0, which is for ones that may not have that. It works fine either way. So you download the platform, and you install that, and then and then you install the extension pack right here. So you just download this, you run that, download this, install that, and it magically appears. And when you install it, it should look something like, hello, there it comes. And this is what VirtualBox looks like when it's installed. And you just go through and you can, you know, first step you do is, where is it? Add? Nope. Oh, come on. There we go. New virtual machine, and it will actually walk you through the process of creating your first virtual machine. It's pretty straightforward stuff. The only thing you probably want to remember when you're creating a virtual machine is you're going to have to create a virtual hard drive, and it's you want to make sure your virtual hard drive is big enough. When you go through the process of creating your first virtual machine, it's going to go through and kind of help you. Like if you say, I'm going to install Linux, it'll go, what kind of Linux? You're going to install Windows, it's going to say, what kind of Windows? And based on whatever you tell it, it's going to set the default amount of virtual RAM, default storage, all that kind of stuff. Just keep in mind that the one thing that a virtual machine can't make out of nowhere is RAM. So if you're on a system with 8 gigabytes of RAM and you set a VM with 4 gigabytes of RAM, that means your actual system that it's running on is only going to get 4 gigs of RAM. So the one thing about virtual machines, except if you're going to install more than 1 or 2, add more RAM to your system. 16 gigs is a minimum, 32 gigs if your wallet's thick enough. So that'd be the big thing I would recommend. All right, how are we doing? We're doing great. Andre, yeah, look at, yeah. Oh, hope you weren't trying to install. Sam, I am. With Soft Ether VPN, you can do client-client or side-to-side or client-to-side. You can do an Open VPN 2 and free DNS 2. You can build your own cloud with it. Very powerful. Sure. You make your own cloud. I've never actually tried doing that. I'm going to have to play with that. Thank you, Marnix. When I was installing Ubuntu iOS, make sure to eject the ISO before restarting. No, that's a very good point. So one of the nice things about using these tools is that hang on, let me bring this up so we can all look at this together. And this is an issue you run into. One moment, please. Okay, let me show you. Alrighty. So I've selected one particular thing. Keep in mind, most of your settings don't change if the VM's actually running. So when your virtual machine shut off, go over here into settings, and under storage, this always gets people in trouble because you've got an ISO and you want to load the ISO, right? So what you do is you click on the little CD, then you come over here and you click this, and then you choose the ISO you want to associate with that. Then once that's done, you just when you're done, before you reboot, you just eject it. So I do it right there. There's other places to do an ejection, but that's one place to do it. All right. So I heard that there was a question on what program do you use to show us the screen of your PC? I'm running a program called OBS Studio. OBS is a tool that's designed to be a little studio like this, where I can switch between this camera and I can, what else? I can have still images. I can have, hold on. I can have browser connections. I can talk to an entire monitor. I have a lot of other stuff that's not actually turned on right now. I light up a command line. It's a powerful tool. It's designed for live streaming. It's called OBS Studio. So Marnix is bringing up a good point too. For a lot of people, they don't want to go through the process of actually installing it, because remember, you have an ISO image and you have to actually go through the install process. First of all, if you've never installed Linux, I think going through the ISO just for the practice of installing Linux is a good thing, but it is very true is that you can get specific images. Marnix is mentioning Kali, but you can do that with Ubuntu and a lot of the other ones. You can even do it for, gosh, there's lots of stuff out there where you can just get the whole image. Just be aware they're big. Brendan S., is Windows Defender enough these days, or do you recommend another brand? About 3 weeks ago, we did a big thing on anti-malware, and Malwarebytes came out real popular, not only for me, but for a lot of the guys around here. But to be honest with you, I tend to run Windows Defender exclusively. I don't put in third-party anti-malware. I've been real happy with Windows Defender by itself. Oh, Glenn, there's so many people. I am still learning. We've been at this only about a month now, and I just have to be careful about, I spend so much time doing this, and I haven't had enough time to play with all the features that OBS Studio provides for live streaming. Because you see these live streamers, like on Twitch, and they've got all this cool stuff going around and all that. And it's like, you should do that. And I was like, I don't know. But yeah, there are some fun toys. El Gato, I'm going to write that down. It's called El Gato, the cat in Espanol. Well, Greg, you missed all the fun, man. Sorry about that. Jesse C., Mike, do you think that I should learn Kali after I get my Security Plus? Kali Linux is just a distribution that has a lot of vulnerability testing tools built in. None of these tools are unique to Kali Linux. You can get them all individually. Metasploit. Sorry. All these tools are easily accessible anywhere. Kali just makes it convenient. You would want to learn Kali Linux because you want to understand vulnerability tools, not just because you pass a Security Plus. What do you want to be when you grow up? If you're a nerd, you'll find Kali Linux to be fun, especially the first time you actually successfully crack a WPA2 network and you're like, this is great. But the other thing you got to remember is that most of these tools are not easy to use by definition. People who don't have a good understanding of IP addressing, people who don't have a good understanding of ports, session connections, 802.11, stuff like that, it would be like handing a little kid a bazooka. Nothing good can happen of it, and it would probably make a big explosion. So, sure. In fact, the other reason I suggest people use Kali Linux is it really gives them a feel of what it means to do vulnerability assessment / pen testing. To me, vulnerability assessment and pen testing are the exact same thing, just on which side of the fence you're on. And as a learning tool to understand how all this works. People think that you can go out and buy a piece of software you can put on your phone and press a button and it'll hack WPA2 networks. Okay, you can, but they're going to cost you $3,000. If you want the free stuff that does this, then having tools like Kali, and then taking the persnickety time, because these tools are persnickety and tricky to use in a lot of situations, and sometimes they don't work, and sometimes they do, and understanding why can be a very powerful lesson. I mean, there's nothing that drives me worse. You go watch some movie, you know, and there's the big hacker, right? And here's how the hacker cracks the big network, right? Tippity-tappity-tip, darn it. Tippity-tappity-tip-tap, darn it. Tippity-tippity-tap, I'm in. You know what I mean? Come on, all right? There's a lot more to it than that. And to get that movie hacker attitude out of your head and moving more into an understanding of what vulnerability assessment really means, sure. A tool like Kali Linux can be fun. I won't argue that. But it can be an amazingly instructional tool on so much more than just cracking a wireless network. Boy, did I get on a soapbox there? Sophos. I don't even know what this Sophos is. Man, you guys are teaching me today. I should be paying you guys. Yes, Mike Meyers takes notes on a pen and paper. Secure Linux is good, Glenn. I agree. Yeah, OBS was easy to learn, LBOE. It's like chess. It's the individual pieces are simple, but when you get them all moving at once. Yes, the movie hacker has to be in a dark room with a green map of the United States wearing a Vincent Vendetta mask. If this was a more adult crowd, I would add to that. Mark Wheeler, I'm using a MacBook Pro and trying to install server on a VirtualBox so I can use Active Directory. Is this possible? Mark, I do not speak Apple too good. I honestly don't know. I didn't even know VirtualBox worked on a Mac, to be honest with you. Is that true? Is that? Now you got me looking. Doggone it. Yeah, I don't think VirtualBox runs on a Mac, dude. There is a Mac Parallels, I think it's called, that's designed to run on Macs, but I have very little experience on that. Maybe Scott Jernigan will help me out. Parallels. I think it's Parallels. But I don't use it. Kim.net. Yes, Mr. Robot. Love that guy. The guy who plays Mr. Robot, who ended up being Freddie Mercury. And he was also Private Snafu in the Pacific series. Yeah. You guys all say VirtualBox works on a Mac. I mean, I just went over here. Here, let me show you what I'm looking at. I just went over here to see what it installs on. Is it like a Linux distro thing? You make that work? Okay. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that was not my experience. All right. Everybody's saying it runs on a Mac. It runs on a Mac. It runs on a Mac. Whoops. It runs on a Mac. Okay. I just didn't see the downloader on the web page. Yeah, so Glenn, I'm not against VMware. It's just that, don't you have to buy that now? Does VMware cost money? It used to have the old VMware Workstation was free, which was pretty cool, but. All right. Rami Malik, thank you, Kim.net. That would have tortured me, not remembering that guy's name. Glenn, I will look. I'm not going to argue with you guys. I believe you. If y'all tell me the moon's made out of cheese, I'll go buy crackers. LBOE, just curious, what would you consider a low budget for building a computer? Because whenever I look up low budget solutions, they're above mine. I don't know. I mean, if I was really, like, if money was really tight for me, first LBOE, are you in Texas by any chance? Texas has amazing deals on free computers. Where would I go? I'd be checking out Craigslist or something like that to find, you know, old junker desktops or stuff, you know. They could be, depending on what you want to do, they could be pretty old and still work great, you know. And you give me an old first generation, or okay, maybe not first, second generation i7, still running DDR2, as long as I have enough of it, it would easily support Windows 10. I could run VirtualBox on that. I'd be probably an old spinny hard drive, who cares? And those people probably give them to you more times than often than not. Yeah, Marnix, VMware Player is free, but it's my understanding that VMware Player doesn't allow you to create VMs. As I understand, VMware Player allows you to run other people's VMs, but not make your own. Gino, you're telling me VMware Workstation is free and still around? Man, Scott Jernigan, we need to check out VMware. I know we've been ignoring it for a while, but we're going to take a look. Glenn, you're out of here. All right, later, man. You're in California, LBOE? Man, come on, man, that's the bluest state in the nation. They probably have all kinds of giveaways out there. Free Thinking Mind. I have your course on Udemy. Absolutely loving it. Thank you. Your course along with network textbook has been amazing. Thank you so much. Free Thinking Mind, you are very welcome. Sure do appreciate it. All right, well guys, we're getting pretty close to wrapping up. I'm going to go ahead and close out a couple minutes early. We have some interesting stuff. So just so you guys know, Wednesday, I'm going to do kind of an overview talk about VPN versus proxy server. We'll do some setup stuff so you can look at that. I'm going to double check about IMAP 4 versus MAPS. I'm kind of curious about that. I know Roger had mentioned that. I know IMAP 4 well, but I don't know what MAPS is. And I'm going to check out El Gato. So you guys gave me a lesson today. So I really, really appreciate it. LBOE, there you go. That's all you need. Older box like that would be fine for that kind of stuff. Brendan S., when you shut off a VM, all your resources that you return to the host machine. Yes, it all goes back. Absolutely does. That's part of the beauty of hypervisor. That is his job. All right, so guys, once again, remember, thank you so much for showing up for today's talk. Keep in mind that we have 50% off of all of our practice questions. Just go to www.totalsem.com and type in the code that Scott Jernigan will be entering here into the live chat for 50% off every single one of our practice questions. Remember, we will not be on Monday. Monday is Memorial Day here in the United States, so we will be back Wednesday. We'll be talking about VPN versus proxy server. We're going to get real conceptual and Zen-like about this so we understand what we're talking about, and we will certainly cover all the questions that you'll possibly run into on any CompTIA exam regarding those two particular technologies, considering they cover A+, Net+, and Security+. That would be a pretty good thing to do. But Melody Lucido, hold on, I'm not going to quite say goodbye yet. Mike, I am new to all this, great stuff. I'm feeling a bit worried about my comprehension. Melody, everybody who starts in this stuff is concerned. You're trying to drink out of a fire hose. It's okay. Pick a spot, get comfortable with that spot. Listen to terms. When you're learning about stuff and people say things and you don't understand what those words are, you stop there. You write down terms on a pen and paper and you verify what those terms are, and then once you figure out what those terms are, then go back to whatever that topic is. It's one of the things I like about my books and videos. I work real hard to never introduce a term without explaining what it is, which I think a lot of tech instruction should learn from. But yeah, Melody, never fear being slightly overwhelmed. That's part of the joy of this. I've been at this now for over 30 years, and every day I'm slightly overwhelmed on something. That guy with the IMAPS versus the MAPS question, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to figure it out. And that's the secret to being a good technician. It doesn't mean how much you know, it is how much that you're willing to figure out. Okay, so with that, I am going to say good night to everybody. You guys have an absolutely amazing weekend. I know I will. And until then, this is your little Uncle Mikey saying good night. Good night.